Apple announces the iPhone SE and iPad Pro 9.7 inch.
But will people line up for them?
Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Alex Kidderman, and I'm here with a man who accidentally swallowed the even smaller iPhone SE 2, Adam Turner. We're also joined by PC Magazine Australia editor Matthew Powell. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex.
Adam, what's new in tech?
The FBI has postponed its legal showdown with Apple regarding accessing the locked iPhone of one of the San Bernardino shooters. The Bureau has asked for a delay in order to explore other avenues for decrypting the device without Apple's help. Apple has so far refused requests to help the FBI bypass security precautions on the phone, which would wipe the phone if an incorrect code was entered 10 times.
Telstra has suffered yet another outage affecting users nationwide late last week, and once again its apology will take the form of another quota-free Sunday. The 3rd of April is the day to mark on your calendars if you plan on downloading the entire internet at once. In the meantime, Vodafone's gone on the offensive, offering customers switching networks on a postpaid contract a free month's access to its network.
Aussie TV fans are finally set to get a taste of high dynamic range, with Netflix preparing to stream Marco Polo and the second season of Daredevil in the new Dolby Vision HDR format, designed to reveal much more details in the bright highlights and the deep shadows. To see the improvement, you'll need to cough up for a new HDR-compatible television, with LG launching Australia's first Dolby Vision-capable televisions this week with its new top-shelf OLED and LEDs.
There's another player in the Australian streaming TV space, with reality TV-obsessed service Hayu launching. Hayu offers more than 3,000 episodes across 127 different reality TV series for the truly Kardashian-obsessed amongst you.
Alright, so Alex, once again, Telstra's not quite everywhere you wanted to be all the time you expected to be there. What's going on here?
Yeah, Telstra is a network that's always sold itself on two things: on its ubiquity, on being everywhere, and on its quality. And that's kind of been lacking. Last week there was a nationwide outage. Today there was an outage mostly centred on Melbourne. It's not looking good if
we just didn't want to talk to the rest of you.
Pay a premium for those services. It's particularly not looking good.
Matthew, which telco are you with, and were you affected by this?
I'm with Telstra, actually.
My condolences.
Thank you. Well, actually, it's been all right, because that first free data day was quite fantastic. I don't know what stops they pulled out, but I was getting the most amazing speed on my iPhone 6S. I was getting, I used speed test at one point. I was getting 60 megabits per second download, which is actually faster than I get off cable. So
this is not surprising for cable.
Yes, cable is very up and down. But that kind of supports the argument that... Yeah, sorry, keep going.
But yeah, today's outage, which I was told also affected parts of Sydney, I didn't have any problems with. And indeed, the second outage that they've given a free data day for, I didn't have any problems on that day. So, I'll take the free data, but I wasn't really affected by the outages.
Some people are sort of calling this Telstra's Vodafone moment, but I don't think that's the case, because Vodafone, it was more of a major problem in terms of network infrastructure, and the fact that Telstra can have these free data days and not fall over shows that their network really is capable of delivering what it promises when it feels like it.
Well, look, to an extent, but I guess the thing is, Telstra has had this majority position where they've been able to claim millions of Australian subscribers, and some of that undoubtedly has to do with some of its regional reach and, of course, some historical factors. But when you do that, when anything goes wrong, it's a big problem. It may, of course, have been a bigger problem than Vodafone, although having said that, Vodafone was over several months of really terrible service. This has just been individual days. The free data thing's kind of interesting, because there's part of my head that says it's a bit of a cynical move. It's only on a Sunday when their network usage is going to be lower anyway. And for a lot of people, and I've got to say, I was this way for the last one, I didn't really bother taking advantage of free data. It was there, but I wasn't really outside of a Wi-Fi area anyway, because it was Sunday. I was at home.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And I think the people who need to be compensated for it are actually sort of business users who've been without data and network access during business hours and have therefore been unable to conduct business. And, giving them free data on a Sunday doesn't help at all with that.
What might help them there, and the one thing that I can see as a bit of a plus in this, or a potential plus further down the track, is this does put pressure on Telstra to not only compensate but compete. And of course, historically, they're more expensive because they're quote unquote better, or they offer less data, or both for a lot of plans. And I reckon this might actually force their hands to start making some of their plans a bit more competitive. Am I barking mad in this assumption?
No, I think they'd need to have a bit more regular outages. Most people, well, there's two reasons you're with Telstra.
You're either 3 weeks Telstra, isn't enough for you?
Yeah, but you're with Telstra either because A, you don't know any better, or B, because you do know better, and you've chosen to be with Telstra because they have the seemingly superior network. Where are you going to go? You're going to switch to Vodafone?
3 outages in 3 weeks is still better than I was getting with Optus.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. What are you going to do? Go to Optus? Go to Vodafone? I still think, all things weighed up, that you're better off with Telstra. If this becomes a weekly event, then yes. But I can't see anyone calling Telstra today and saying, I'm leaving you and going somewhere else. As much as Vodafone's trying to win people over who are unhappy, I think it takes more than this to drag Telstra down to the level of the others. So, Alex, we now have an itty-bitty iPhone for people with itty-bitty hands. Do you need one?
Do I need one personally? Probably not. Does the market need one? Well, Apple certainly seems to think so. Having launched the iPhone SE this morning, putting it on pre-sale on Thursday and then on sale next Friday, anyone would think they were in a hurry to sell some of these things, but I'm certainly not feeling like I'm in a hurry to buy one. What about you, Matthew?
Well, I have to admit my feeling on it's kind of changed a little bit because, a year ago a little bit more than a year ago now, isn't it, when the iPhone 6 came out, I kind of felt like this is a bit big. This is a little bit cumbersome. I preferred the form factor of the iPhone 5S when I used it. Now I've kind of got used to the iPhone 6. I use an iPhone 6S as my day-to-day phone. I still think the iPhone 6 Plus is just ridiculously big. But I remember at the time that the iPhone 6 came out thinking, I hope that they keep the iPhone 5 in there, and feeling like as the iPhone 6 came out that the iPhone 5 was being left behind. It was a bit of a technological orphan. So, for me 2 years ago, I say, yep, absolutely, the same technology that's in the iPhone 6S, but in an iPhone 5 form factor. Gimme, I want one. For me now, it's less of a thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, and I'm kind of in the same camp. Historically, I've always said I liked smaller phones, and the reality is actually there really aren't that many small, powerful phones. And to be fair, this is a reasonably powerful phone. It is essentially, but not quite, a 6S in a 4-inch screen. But they are omitting or glossing over a few key factors there. The front-facing camera, for some reason, is lower quality than that on the 6S, and you don't get the whole responsive touch 3D thing, which frankly I never use anyway. In the SE. But the other thing that really struck me this morning was the price, and especially the Australian price, because we're back to the bad old days of being whacked $100 extra bucks for a phone just because.
Just because you live on the other side of the world, yeah. How does it? Because they've just retired. They've just retired the iPhone 5S, right? That's been discontinued. What kind of pricing was on that compared to this?
So if you look at it from the 5S versus the SE, and they've been rather canny this way. If you look at it that way, it actually looks good. As in, it looks beneficial to pick up the SE because the price they had on the 5S was relatively high. The issue is that the SE compared to the 6S, which is a more capable device, is just, it's too close, essentially speaking. So the SE runs $679 or $829 for the 16 gig or the 64 gig, although if you get the 16 gig, you are mad.
You're asking for trouble, yeah.
The 5S was sitting at $749 and $829 for 16/32. So head to head, yeah, fine. The SE is a better phone than the 5S. So if you're considering getting a 5S, then yes, the SE makes a certain quantity of sense. But against the 6S, I would jump up and get that slightly higher spec device if it were me. But I guess, again, Apple figures there is a market.
Exactly, form factor matters to some people. I mean, they specifically mentioned China as a market for it. I don't really know if that holds if Chinese people actually have smaller hands.
When I said earlier that there were not many powerful compact phones, there really aren't. The Xperia Z5 Compact on the Android side is pretty much it for a premium processor, and that's last year's premium processor in a small form factor. Otherwise, smaller phones are something that pretty much everyone else selling a premium device, and this is premium priced, has abandoned.
I would think that if you're weighing up, if you could still get your hands on a 5S, one of the reasons why you stay away from the 5S is that it's going to run out of iOS updates much sooner than the new phones. Is that a fair reason to look at a newer one?
Absolutely.
I would say so.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The best thing that can probably be said about the 5S at this point is that in about 2 to 3 weeks, you will probably see a lot of 5Ss quite cheap. As in probably, $100 to $200 cheaper than normal, and iPhones historically don't drop value that much. So if you've just been hanging out for, I want an iPhone and I don't care what it is, then you might be able to pick up an iPhone 5S relatively cheap soonish. But beyond that, yeah, it's very much the end-of-life model now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't be supported. I would say, when iOS 10 comes out, I'll be surprised if the 5S is fully supported in that.
Yeah.
I would say that, to the extent it's supported, there'll be a lot of features that simply don't work. I mean, there's already a lot of features in iOS 9, involving the 3D touch stuff that simply are not supported on the older phones anyway because the hardware isn't there. And, once you get to the next version of iOS, the iPhone 5S will be an orphan in every way.
There is, of course, one other pressing question here. They announced the iPhone SE, but they didn't actually say during the launch what SE stands for. What do we think? Is it Special Edition? Small Edition? Squirrel Escort? What's their thinking?
Well, I can tell you that it's probably not Superman, because the only thing that's faster than Superman is his lawyers. A couple of years ago when they released the first, was it the 4S, I think was the first phone, and I wrote a blog post and I put up a photograph there that had Superman ripping open his shirt with an iPhone in there, and his lawyers were on the phone about 30 minutes later saying, can you please take that photo down? So yeah, I'm guessing it doesn't stand for Superman.
Matthew,
Doesn't
any
stand for
ideas?
Superman. Well, when the 3GS came out, which was actually the first one that they threw an S on the end of.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it must have been
when
the 3GS.
came out, the story was that the S stood for speed, and so when I was telling my wife about the iPhone SE, her view was, well, maybe it's speed and economy, which I really hope it isn't, because the iPhone speed economy.
What about speed and
just
ecstasy? Speed and ecstasy for people who are really excited about their phones.
It was designed in California.
That's true. I mean, it's designed for people with very, very small hands, so it's probably Donald Trump wants.
So Matthew, we have the little big iPad Pro kind of thing now. What's the story with a smaller, bigger iPad?
Oh, I so want one.
Okay.
I want this one. The iPhone SE, I couldn't really be bothered. Again, as I say, 2 years ago I'd have jumped at it. Now it's a minor thing. But an iPad Pro with all the niftiness that comes in an iPad Pro with the split screen and the pencil works and all the great things that you can do with an iPad Pro, but in a form factor that's actually going to fit in my bag.
An iPad form factor.
Yes.
An iPad form factor as opposed to a surfboard. Yeah, I want that. Yeah, gimme. I will have one of those, please, now.
Do you think they made a mistake in making the first one too big?
I think they were kind of forced to go big to get some people who were thinking Microsoft Surface.
Yeah.
The when you get into that, your tablet is actually a replacement for your laptop kind of market. They needed to go into that big screen space,
Yeah.
which in some ways I think might have been a bit of a miscalculation, because it basically makes Steve Ballmer right in saying that Apple would have to emulate the Microsoft Surface.
Yeah.
And you don't ever want to do anything that makes Steve Ballmer right.
This is true.
That's-
Though
that's
say what
like
you
the
will about the
golden rule, isn't
Microsoft, the Surface is a pretty nice piece of kit. But you're right, they were
It is.
they were playing in Microsoft's territory rather than playing in their own territory.
Exactly. And, there's probably quite a few people out there who like having a gigantic tablet that, can keep the sun off you and stuff. And that's a great thing. I'm not one of them. I have a 1941 Mark VII satchel, the kind of, bag that Indiana Jones carries.
Yeah.
And the old iPhone form factor fits into that perfectly. It's like they went to Indiana Jones and they said, Indy, what kind of iPad do you want? And he told them how big it would have to be, and it fits beautifully. And an iPad Pro just doesn't fit in that bag.
That must be
So
what
I
the
didn't
new
want an
Indiana
iPad
Jones
Pro.
movie is going to be about. I heard they're making another one. It must be,
Indiana Jones 5, Indiana Jones, and the pursuit of an iPad Pro.
Yes.
It's somehow
quest
not
for a
as
smaller,
catchy as I
bigger,
would have
smaller
imagined
iPad.
it might be.
But neither
But
was
Matthew,
the
I
Crystal
think
Skull.
There's no CGI monkeys in it, and that's all that matters.
Matthew, I think I'm with you on the wanting the new iPad Pro, although possibly for slightly different reasons. The thing that I found with the larger iPad Pro was, like, as you said, I mean, it's massive, but every time I picked it up, I thought, actually, I'd rather be doing this on a MacBook. And then I got kind of sad because it seems quite likely that what they want to do, and admittedly, it's where their profits seem to shift, is actually shift away from MacBooks and into iPad Pro-style devices. Whereas this is, to me, this is much more a tablet, and frankly, my iPad is due for a refresh, so I'd probably pick it up as a tablet form factor thing. I still can't be that fussed or excited about the pencil to speak of, but it's fine if that's what you kind of want. But I do suspect they'll probably sell more of these to people wanting upgrades for their existing iPads than I think those who look at it from the, this is my pro productivity machine. I mean, would you specifically look at this and think, here is my workhorse machine?
Absolutely, yes. Look, my primary work machine is my iPad. And if you think about it, aside from the iPad Pro, the iPad Air hasn't had an update since 2014. We're like a year and a half since the last time there was an update to the iPad in its normal standard form factor. The last time that they updated the iPad, they made it huge, so nobody wanted it, or I didn't. So, now it's like, okay, here's that iPad that you wanted a year and a half ago that didn't fit in your bag.
Do you think
here's the one that fits.
Do you think we'll see an Air 3? Do you think they'll continue that stream as well as the Pros? The same, we'll say they do with the MacBooks?
I have this feeling the
so,
oxygen has left the Air market, that they're just going to go with the Pro, because...
Look, I think the iPad Mini's doomed. I don't think the Air is.
Oh,
Why do you think the Mini's doomed?
I disagree. Interesting.
Okay.
I disagree entirely.
Why don't you like the Mini's long-term
don't-
outlook?
When was the last time the Mini had any kind of attention or update or any kind of focus on it at all? I mean, you're looking even further back than 2014. You're looking maybe to the beginning of 2014 since the last time there was an iPad Mini update of any standing at all.
I guess the question is, are they still selling
the
it?
reason,
Although?
Matthew, the
device-
reason I disagree with that is that, and you're not wrong, I'm not saying you're wrong about the Mini update cycle, is the Mini gives Apple that other form factor. In a way, it's the SE, if you will, of the iPad space. It gives them that smaller form factor, which, again, some people really rather like. Whereas, continuing on with the Air, they'd have to come up with both a processor and setup that made sense with that, in the same size form factor, but presumably cheaper than the 9.7-inch iPad Pro, and I just don't see that they've got all of those pieces to fit together. Whereas if you just say, the Air 2 was the last one of that, and then from now on they're iPad Pros because, hey, we want to sell these as productivity machines, I think that just makes a heck of a lot more sense. I can't see them running two 9.7-inch tablets because, frankly, Samsung's tried that for years with about 1 billion different tablets, and they seem to only ever sell about 3 of them. Apple seems to like selling more products than that.
Sometimes keeping things simple is the way to go. I do think that Apple needs...
Which is exactly what Tim Cook did to Apple when he joined, if you remember, way back when, in the dark ages of Apple. When Tim Cook came on as chief operating officer, one of the first things he did was look at the number of motherboards they were building for different models of Mac and say, no, we're not doing that anymore. I think they went from like 54 different motherboard designs down to 4.
Yeah.
So he's a man who likes a simple product line.
To be fair, that was probably about the number of
Alex
Macs they were
right.
selling at the time.
Harsh, maybe fair, but still harsh. But I think going to what you were saying before about the smaller, cheaper models, they're also a little bit of an insurance policy to stop those people who are thinking about Android. It's like, well, Apple just don't make an iPad that's small enough for me. They don't make an iPhone that's small enough for me. So they're kind of driving me to Android if they won't give me the iPad mini. Or I think the iPad mini especially was one of the biggest clear response to what Android was doing, that they had to be in that space. So I think they're always going to keep them there just to catch those people who might be tempted to lose their faith.
So Matthew, alongside the new iPhone SE and the iPad and even new Apple Watch bands, if that's what gets you excited, Apple also had an exciting new cable to announce. And it's not all that often that I get to say the words exciting new cable, is it?
No, it's not often, but if you're a MacBook owner who's had one of the nifty new MacBooks for the last few months with a USB-C port and no other ports, you have been completely and utterly unable to connect it to your iPhone or your iPad without a USB to USB-C adapter that costs, I think, $29 was the cost of the adapter. Well, now, as of today, as of this minute, get onto the store and order it now. You can buy a cable that goes from USB-C straight to Lightning. You don't need an adapter anymore. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. It's fantastic. This is a happy day for MacBook owners.
Well, that just about wraps it up for this episode of Vertical Hold. Remember, if you've got any comments, hit us up in the comments section on YouTube, via Twitter, or the Facebook Vertical Hold page. Special thanks to our guest Matthew Powell for joining us on the show. Thanks, Matthew.
Thanks for having me, Adam and Alex.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And remember, if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button.